Hi, and welcome to the supplement to the main message, and in a sense to the reading, because this week and next week is today. We are approaching these things a little differently, so the reading includes reflection to help us engage the reading. Rose is in charge of that. What a great job she's done. Thank you, Rose, so much. I've shared a main message. This is just a quick couple of footnotes to the main message. I cover quite a bit, I think, about Mary Magdalene. The term Magdalene is not a surname. It simply refers to which Mary she is by where she came from. So there are quite a number of Marys in the New Testament, and the writers help us understand which Mary we're talking about, normally by referring to relationships, but in her case, the town she came from. Mary, the one from Magdala, or as we call her, Mary Magdalene. So that's who she is by name. She's an outstanding disciple, but I cover that in the main message, I hope. I think that cultural conditioning will encourage us to assume that all the action that is important occurs among the men, with a sort of sideways a bit of attention for Mary, the mother of Jesus, at the cross. But actually, Mary Magdalene is dealt with more completely than 6 of the 12 apostles by the gospel writers. So they think she has more to contribute to our understanding of Jesus than talking about 6 of the guys who were among the 12. And there are some other leading male figures in that early form of church, and Mary Magdalene gets far more attention than them in a male dominated culture. So it's very, very striking, really. And she is just such an epic inspiration and example. There are lots of legends about her. Theories too, wild theories, that she was a sex worker is not actually stated or indicated. It's not denied, but it's not suggested either, so we simply don't know. The other suggestion is that that's quite common, is that she was romantically in love with Jesus. Might be, but nobody ever indicates that. And I think that might have more to do with a male-dominated perspective in the history of our cultures, expecting that the only thing that a woman would follow a man for would be a romantic inclination, and that's just daft and not remotely what is indicated. Maybe she was romantically attracted to Jews. We've simply no idea. So I would just ignore all those, and countless other legends have become attached to Mary of Magdala, Mary Magdalene. I mentioned also the image used by Jesus of giving his life as a ransom for many. You'll find that we're working from Matthew's Gospel this week, but it's also to be found in Mark chapter 10. But in Matthew chapter 20, at verses 27 and 28, Jesus is trying to rebalance the very distorted view of power in the church, or influence and importance in the kingdom of heaven. And James and John and their mum have made a power bid in the church, and Jesus is saying that's completely out for you guys. I didn't come to be served. You shouldn't be wanting to be served either. I came to serve and to give my life as a ransom for many. Well, servanthood is definitely an image, but that theme of serving is used in other images too. So, for example, in John's Gospel, the washing of the disciples' feet is an image of servanthood at the Last Supper, at which Jesus says, you're supposed to follow this example, but you don't yet have the means to know what I mean by washing your feet tonight. you'll catch up with that later. But right now, you just think it's about washing feet or something. No, I'm doing a servant role as an image of what I'm here to do and what I will do in dying for you all. But you won't get your heads around that now, so you'll understand later. So the servant theme runs throughout the ministry of Jesus, the teaching of Jesus, the actions of Jesus, and the images around his teaching, and images that will follow in other parts of the New Testament too. But here's one particular image that's used, the ransom for many. Sometimes because of the way Jesus says this, I think, and for some other reasons, cultural, I think, people really think the ransom is the whole thing that the New Testament has to explain about why Jesus died. And the ransom image is one of a whole number of images the New Testament uses to speak of the meaning of what Mary Magdalene saw. What Mary Magdalene watched on Good Friday, she did not understand all these things. I'm sure that's right to say. There's no reason to suppose she would have the kind of perspective that later Christians reflecting back, that she would have later reflecting back. At the time, caught up in the things, she's not understanding or seeing into anything of the mystery of it. She's just caught up in the horror and the loss and the grief of it. So it's later that understanding begins to dawn. And Mary Magdalene is the example for us in seeing Jesus serving us by dying, of what it means to follow him by serving, following him through his work, through his worst moments of agony and death, and even literally to the grave, and ultimately to come and care for his body. But that's going ahead to the resurrection on Easter Day, which we like to mention right the way through, because we look back at the events of Good Friday and everything around it in the light of the resurrection. We do not look at Good Friday as if it was Bad Friday. Because the resurrection, Easter, changes what Good Friday will seem to us. But Mary wasn't in that place on Good Friday itself. So in Matthew 20, the image of Jesus saying, "And I give myself as a ransom for many." Ransom in my culture refers usually to demands made by kidnappers, but in their culture it referred to liberating slaves from a captivity to somebody else's profit. Slaves who were held as enforced servanthood. And what Jesus does is he releases us from our enforced servanthood to what destroys, kills, dies, and is destructive and anti-God's kingdom, and that's an enforced situation. As you're captive to something that's not good for you, it doesn't serve your purpose. So I release you from it, and in your freedom, I tell you that if you want to follow me and do things my way and join me in my kingdom, then you willingly decide to serve. If you don't have to, but if you willingly decide. So you serve now not because you're a captive to sin and death, but you'll serve now because you're liberated by love and life. And that's why I die on Good Friday for you, to meet the cost of setting you free. What we shouldn't get stuck in is trying to guess who the ransom is paid to. In Jesus' use of the image, nobody's paid off here. It's just that Jesus meets the cost of releasing us from our slavery. It was something that was a family obligation to try and do. So Jesus is treating us as family in dying for us to liberate us from that enslavement to fear, sin, death, and all the bad stuff, to freedom. And he tells us that freedom is a matter of loving service. It can sound contradictory, but it's the absolute gospel truth and really works. Anyway, enough from me for this week, because I promised to be quick in this bit, so I better stop. God bless you, keep you safe this week, and perhaps, given that this Palm Sunday we've looked at Mary Magdalene as one way to understand and help us into what Jesus meant when he said he died serving us, then maybe this week look out for your opportunities to serve. God bless.